And you're right, you forget what's going on. You forget your own body. I mean, to me, it's just because you're on top of the world. Your ego's there. Remember, your ego's not your amigo.
What is up? What happens when you're used to having a title and then it gets stripped away from you and it's just yourself standing there with no title? Welcome back to Together We Are Stronger, Leadership Straight, No Chaser. And tonight we're actually here with James Brett, an individual down in Australia. And through his journey, being in front of boardrooms to going through a health journey and really finding himself and really helping leaders get into that purpose driven area, really fine tuning and what does it look like when you deal with failure and then having to bounce back. So James, when you look, what was that journey you went through, that health piece that ended up stripping the titles away from you and then it was just yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Scott, and great to be here. Yeah, my story and my journey's been massive, a real dark night of the soul, and coming from highly successful corporate career and working across Europe and Asia Pacific. And then 15 months ago, I discovered I had stage 3 cancer and had a 10-centimeter tumor growing off my right kidney. And it had been growing there for likely a couple of years in a cavity, and was, in hindsight, was depleting my energy. I was sort of starting to take supplements and quite a bit of caffeine to keep pushing and going, and sort of wasn't listening to my body. And so there was, I was really identified with being that really successful leader, leading sales teams, winning multi-million-dollar bids and procurements. And this took me back, redefined me in terms of looking back. It's such a gift as well. But at the time, I was in deep fear of my death. And, the body was breaking. And I had to slow down and then bring the mind and the body back into balance to heal. So as I talk to you today, I'm cancer-free, energy's returning. So when your kidneys, in Chinese medicine, they talk to the kidneys holding your energy. And that was my experience, is having one kidney taken out. Then I was really quite depleted in energy through my healing. And of course, the body's healing with having an organ being removed. So it's been a massive redefining of my identity, what's true for me, and how I can support others to make the biggest impact in the world without burning out.
Well, let me say this: when I read everything about you, the journey that you are on, the cancer and everything else, the body, the mind, it just gave me goosebumps. And it was so cool to see someone who fought for everything. And that's why I was bringing up to people today. I have a gentleman who, I really give great detail, but it gives people a time to stand up and allows people to understand what you went through, right? It tells other people I could do the same thing. I can refocus, both focus on not just my mind, but also my body, and to be cancer free, man. Hats off to you. And it's just, when I read your story and I read it again, it was an emotional ride. It was really cool.
Yeah, thank you. And that was a big insight for me in terms of years in the corporate role. I was world. I was very heady in the head in terms of and driving, and it was super
Yeah.
successful in terms of letting my mind lead. But there was a disconnection with the body. I wasn't listening to what was going on in the body at that level to really see what was going on, and was really blindsided. I thought, I look after myself. I had been looking after myself, eating well, don't eat a lot of processed food, exercise. But there was a deeper thing going on there, which I wasn't seeing at that time. And so that's been a big shift in terms of the importance of seeing the need for harmony in both the mind and the body. And looking after both allows you then to perform at an even higher level than when you're just all in your head.
So I've shared this before. I've highlighted this, that we're center to everything. And so as leaders, we get so caught up in the day to day, we're so laser focused that when it comes to like your experience and you look at other leaders, what is that piece there that really is holding leaders back? And what is it that they need to kind of consider and look at in regards to really making a difference, really not burning out, and then really pushing people to their potential? What is that from the experience that you had and just kind of what you see with dealing with leaders and how you guide individuals?
Well, there's a real challenge in terms of high pressure and where there can be a focus and a feeling that there needs to be even quicker reactive decisions and thinking becoming busy. And that, I call it our quality of mind. If we're not conscious or aware of that, then, the quality of our thinking will determine the quality of our results. And we can get caught up in action and busyness, and then at the same time our mind being busy, our bodies out of regulation. So catching that and finding ways not just to circuit break but sustain a high level of quality of mind, so then we're in our presence, we're meeting people, we're listening at a much deeper level rather than just going into reaction and some of the unconscious patterns and beliefs that might be creating a story about the situation or the thing that we're having to face. We're not falling into that. And so that's why, I call it presence over pressure. So our slowing us down and having a quieter mind gives greater space for insight, for fresh thinking, rather than this habitual old way of reacting, which won't serve us when we're wanting to lead authentically, true, and bring the whole team with us.
So George has had a lot of growth. I know this one is hitting George right in the guts because he's had a lot of growth, and we've talked about this. And George, when you're hearing that, like, what's coming to mind?
Honestly, peace. The word that I come up with is peace. And you put this in your market as tools, finding peace in the middle of challenges. And whether it's business, health, or love, when I hear this, it's all about peace, because when you're on a roll and you're moving forward, you're making things happen, and you're right, you forget what's going on. You forget your own body. And to find that, I mean, to me, it's just because, you're on top of the world, your ego's there. Remember, your ego's not your amigo, but also to really find and identify how to and create peace, because a lot of times people don't get it, especially entrepreneurs to leaders to individuals to trying to make movement. And let me just tell you this, I'm still blown away just having your information here, what you've gone through and what you're doing and how you're speaking. Is all about harmonizing both your mind, your body, and spirit. To me, that's so important. And especially for people who've gone through things like this, who are leaders, who are, entrepreneurs, who've gone through things. And it's like, how did that guy get so much peace? And when you're sitting here talking, you're just real calm. And it's just so cool to see. And I mean, hats off.
Well, thank you. Yeah, for me, peace on the inside expresses as peace on the outside, and that will impact the people that you're leading. And for me, there was times I was sort of parachuted into a team in Singapore that were at that time dysfunctional, weren't working together, really busy in their heads, and I found myself there just slowing them down from just your presence and your peacefulness and calmness in the moment will impact. And it sort of sounds a bit woo-woo, but I've seen this where people then slow down and then their brilliance, their genius shows up and comes out. And that was, through that 6 weeks I spent in Singapore, it ended up with the team there, and they had all of the knowledge and expertise, but that came out as a team when it started to come into coherence. And it was a $90 million that was won, which was on the edge of being lost. So it was massive and showed that it didn't need me coming with a load of extra thinking and tools and fixes. It really just required presence and that capacity to then allow others in that team to come in and step into their genius.
Deep wisdom. I tell you, deep wisdom. And I mean, I can go on and on, but I just, we go through certain things. Being an entrepreneur for 43 years, and I've gone through the peaks and valleys, like Scott said, and changes and everything else. And I just really started having peace. And that's what I focused on when I read everything about you, is that peace factor. And I was just so intrigued because, you bring warmth, you bring kindness, depth, and wisdom coming out the window, here. And it's just so cool to see that. And I was so excited to really sit down and hear your story. And I don't want to talk as much, but you really aligned everything about what you were doing. And I mean, you were lost, but did you have people that just kind of realigned you and helped you through? There's sort of like your tribe or your close, people that you trust with everything really kind of helped you out in any possible way?
Yes, for sure. So we had moved out of Sydney and bought a patch of land, 2.5 acres on the mid-north coast of Australia, with the vision of creating a space of transformation where we're running workshops and retreats. But just being in nature was also part of the healing, and then having a community of people that were caring and looking after me and supporting was really a big part of that support. This is where I live. It's called the undiscovered country. It's just so beautiful. Dolphins, we're 10 minutes from the beach, so there's dolphins swimming in the
That's
ocean.
so cool.
And the nature here is good for the nervous system. And there was a slowing down there as well, because when we sort of came here, we were quite busy wanting to build infrastructure and get things ready.
Okay.
And so there's been, again, a slowing and getting into what I call our sort of essence pace, where we're moving at a pace where we're in flow, rather than when we get caught up in rushing around and trying to get so much done, and then not living in the alignment to even the rhythm of nature, where nature will sort of slow down a bit in winter. And we were initially charging through there, and now we're just a much more aligned. Yeah, so we're living an aligned life in that way. And that's also been part of the healing. And then community, so important, the connection and community and support that comes from having a close tribe that's got your back.
Yes. Yeah. Hats off.
So I would say, yeah. So right now, if you're grabbing some nuggets as you're listening to this, hit the like button. If you're looking for these types of videos, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And really, as you're listening to this, ask yourself, where do you need to slow down? Where do you need to become present, be in the moment, so that way you can have that alignment and start moving in the proper direction instead of potentially being pulled all over the place. And so, James, you had talked about that Singaporean contract, how it was on the verge of being lost, but then you came in, you were helping the culture, the team really become present. And the one thing that you had highlighted was you help individual go into being present, and then also with the possibility piece. And so when you look at kind of the leaders, where we're at with everything going on, what happens when people move into being present and then really seeing the possibilities that are present because of the adjustment of being in the moment and being present?
Yes, sure, Scott. So for me, that can start simply in just of how we listen. So listening is presence. So coming into our deepest highest quality of listening with someone will create this opportunity for this presence to arise naturally just through the quality of our listening. And through that, when we're present, we're not in our story, we're not in our judgments. We're then in this space where clarity arises, where there's space for fresh insight. And that's high quality thinking. So that's a high quality of mind. And that's what will then arise in terms of high levels of innovation, creativity, co-creation, where we're then bringing out the genius and the wisdom in the person that we're and the team that we're working with, rather than trying to control and fix and provide tools on top of that, which can suffocate that. So listening, as I said, is presence. It's such a simple thing. For many, we're not listening, we're thinking, we've already got our own agenda and story, and that's then impacting the quality of the results that we can achieve.
You know what's crazy is, James, is looking at everything. How, let me ask you this. You bring in high, powerful people in to help do coaching and everything. How did you really just, I mean, you probably said it already, but just stay calm because you're so used to being high performance, right? And now you have to calm yourself down, move slowly, and then you have people that are just bringing very powerful trainers in. How do you slow yourself down from not like, I could do this again, and just have peace and harmony in yourself?
So yeah, there's been a big journey for me. At first, my sort of 20 years ago, I was sort of really looking at how can I control the mind? How can I control states of mind? Was doing a lot of neuro-linguistic programming, so NLP, to look at controlling my states. And then over time that shifted to looking at, well, what's behind the eyes, the space in which that thinking arises.
Yes.
And looking at space where that piece is the piece that's behind the thinking, the space behind the thoughts. And then also seeing how the body and how our breath, and that also will impact and help quieten the mind. So just a simple practice of consciously breathing, because often if we're in a stressful situation and a high pressure situation, our breathing will be shallow and it will be in the top of the chest. So it will be fight or flight. So that's increasing cortisol in the body. Whereas just the simple practice of deepening our breath, taking 6 breaths a minute. So sort of 5-second inhale, 5-second slow exhale, taking that and doing that for 3 to 5 minutes will bring us into rest and digest. We'll start to slow down and bring the default mode network in neuroscience, that part of the brain with a sense of I and the sort of thinking story maker, starts to quieten down. So we can do that through understanding in terms of the mastery. So that sort of meditation and practices to become quieter, and training the mind to be comfortable in peace and in stillness rather than wanting to keep thinking. But we can also do that via the body as well, and the nervous system. So the breath, how we move. So, I do a lot of Eastern practices which are around building energy and regulating energy, slow movements of the body with the breath. And that will also quieten the mind. So those together are things that can be played with, instantly having an impact in terms of how we then show up. That quietening of the mind, as I said, then allows us to have greater clarity, higher quality of.
Well, I need to do that. Let me tell you, I'm always thinking, I'm always on the run. Scott would tell you, but it's just a powerful message that you're given to our viewers, and what you're doing and what you're saying, and how you're overcoming things. And really, what on your property, do you have people come to it and you train them? And do you travel still around, or you just really stay on the 2 acres that you bought to make it your home, plus a place for harmony for business?
So both we do, or I do, in terms of we'll do things in person here on our lands. And so we do a range of different experiences, retreats, coaching, also online. So I work with people remotely as well. And occasionally we'll do things further afield. Now I'm feeling, in terms of my level of vitality, is increasing day by day. I'm still my energy levels still aren't what they were in terms of prior to having the kidney removed. So I'm mindful of that in terms of what I do in the amount of travel from that side. So yeah, it's primarily a mixture of on-site work here and then online remote work.
Just
So
I'm
I
not lost for
know
words.
you're talking about the purposeful breathing, kind of the movement, the purposeful movement. You talk about, and I think we talked about this in yesterday's episode, which will be out a little bit later, but the aspect of purposeful action. And when we look at a lot of individuals, there's not a lot of purpose behind what they're doing. And there's leaders out there that really don't have an idea of what am I doing this for? I'm just doing it just to do it. And so when you think about the idea of purposeful action, when it comes to leaders, what they're doing, what ultimately should they be looking at, or what are they needing to kind of think of when it comes to, am I taking purposeful action?
Sure. So for me, there is a layer of firstly understanding and having the self-awareness to understand how we're being and what's showing up currently in terms of how we're leading, and also what that looks like in terms of the limiting beliefs and the self-talk that we're expressing to ourselves and even to others in terms of which is around our upper limits as well. And so there is a layer there in terms of which is at the identity level of who we're being. And then it's there a second deeper process of who do we need to be in order to achieve what we're looking to do in the world. And purpose is mixed into that, but coming into that place of a higher quality of mind and into that space where there's fresh space for insight, for connection to our deepest purpose. It's like almost like it's the still small voice within can get drowned out by the big brass band of thinking and noise and beliefs and limitations. So when those are peeled back, and then we can actually upgrade the software from that perspective with putting in new ideas, new declarations, new ways of being, to enable you then to align to your deepest purpose. And in that space that arises, and then there's a recalibration, a reorientation to what is your deepest purpose in life for here. I believe everyone has a genius, and then it's aligning to that. So that starts to surface, and then we then recalibrate the way we're being around that. So that's a deeper question of who do we need to be in order to show up in the world and make the biggest difference.
It's very interesting because we had something similar conversation wise last night when we had recorded. So it's a very interesting connection sequence here of what you're sharing and what you're highlighting. And so it really does play kind of the importance of, with it showing up, there's something here. And so as a listener, if there's something that's percolating, or you're like, I just don't know, and it's that tingling sensation or whatever it is for you as an individual, you really want to sit with it and work to become present to extract whatever that is that you're missing, or you're searching for, whatever it is. And so it's a very interesting thing, just the correlation with the conversations and whatnot.
Yeah, good. And and part of some of the work I do in terms of getting, as I said very earlier, in terms of dropping out of the head, getting more into the body, into the heart center as well, in terms of how we're leading and aligning to the heart center from that side, in terms of, and then our leadership becomes not just about making profit, but also how are we supporting and developing our people? How are we looking after the planet? So it's conscious leadership, which is then it's radically whole in that perspective. So it then is supporting the people and planet, and that way we can then create even more greater impact and look after what is a precious resource, both in our people and also the place we're living in, and looking after that place.
I got a question for you, and you have this on there. The biggest misconception of business leaders about clarity: how can they access without burning out? And, it's something that you went through, but it also tells other leaders who are listening to this, how to, the misconception of it, how do you overcome that without getting burnt out?
Well, the big lesson for me around that has been that slowing down to deeper listening, listening to the body, creating pauses. So space in between the action where we can quieten and center ourselves. And we can do conscious practices like changing our shape, as I said, in terms of those sort of slow movements, to the conscious breathing, which will, a quieter body and a deeper breath will quieten the mind. So that gives that space, but creating regular pauses where we can then come into deeper listening and just regulating, allowing the nervous system to regulate, will then start to stabilize and establish that calmness. So that becomes more and more of the default without you having to do a practice. But initially it can be helpful to be doing a practice where I say deeper breathing, slowing down and creating these pauses to give space and time to think, rather than just getting even busier interaction. And that will then reduce the level of clarity. It will mean we're more reactive. That's, that can happen in leadership where we're feeling we need to react even quicker. But my invitation is creating those pauses and slowing down will then increase the quality of your decision making and then the impact that you're actually having.
So I have a question for you, is that I just read all about your story over and over. Did you ever come out with a book or anything so people can really pick up and read it, and what you've been through and how you are doing stuff? They can find you online, of course, but do you have a book that you promote? Because I would be highly interested, because the breathing and everything you talked about, it's just awesome. Because the guy over there, Scott, he's like, you need to relax, you need to do this. And I am a high performance, but I'm starting to now calm down. And so I didn't see anything, but I didn't, look over there. I just read your story over and over again.
Yeah, thank you. And I really, really appreciate your words. There is something that's in the process of being created. Part of me starting to share my story and come on to podcasts is part of that is being seen from the from that initial surgery, and I didn't talk about that. I had a bowel obstruction where I lost 11 kilos and couldn't eat or drink, and I almost died at that point. There's been a period of me being a bit of a hermit and sort of just retreating, where I was focusing on my healing, of course, and getting back into balance. And then now I'm starting then to look at how I can create, how can I share and impact people? And that's through podcasting. There are some online workshops and trainings which are in development as well as obviously, working in person or online in terms of those channels. And then, for me, it's my wish from these types of conversations is to pique some curiosity so that it can be a circuit breaker just to shift into trying something new. But there does need to be some discipline and commitment in order for that to ground and then to see a shift. So that practice of pausing, simple one of just creating some pauses throughout the day where we then just deepen our breathing, sounds very simple, but that practice of taking us out of fight or flight into rest and digest, reducing cortisol, it's very, very simple, but that's bodily, a somatic practice. And then the other then is to explore, and I can put some resources and share those around.
Please, yes.
Quality of mind, and how through an understanding of the nature of thought, the nature of how we're creating our experience moment to moment, by seeing that and that being something which we see in reality, it's like we've got a a virtual reality headset on our head all of the time, and that's creating our reality from the inside out. So those curiosities to get curious rather than just be lost in the reality, lost
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
story, those can be pathways which then will shift that reality. So we start to lead from the inside out rather than just reacting to the outside world and to the stories that are in our minds.
Just truly amazing.
So just like listening through our conversation here, there's been quite a few nuggets that have been dropped. And really, as an individual that's listening to this, it's up to you to be present in the moment and extract that nugget or nuggets that you need. And we've talked about this too, is find one nugget, find two nuggets, implement it, and then come back and see if there's anything else that you missed. Because a lot of times your mind is only receptive to a couple things. And then as you expand, it opens up and there might be things that you've missed out on. And so, James, when you look at wanting to have individuals connect with you, where are they able to go in regards to that connection piece, really to learn more, really to have that engagement with you and what you offer?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So yeah, my main website is oasis-within.com.au. And then you can find there my link to my LinkedIn. There's lots of information in terms of what we're doing here and also what we offer for supporting leaders and people in transition. And I'll go there as a starting point and then make a connection. I love connecting and collaborating as well and sharing, and would love to hear what's landed and what's resonated. I have this feeling, when you hear something that's true, you can feel it in your body, and that's a sign to then, okay, let's get curious about that. So that curiosity, and that can be the same, the simple thing of if we're with someone and rather than seeing them through our story, we get curious and see them fresh as if we've never met them before and meet them there with your presence and your listening.
So, I mean, I'll say this, and I know, Scott, you finish, and it's been an honor, sir. True honor.
Oh, thank you so much, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share, and I hope your audience gets some insights, and for me is inspired with a bit of curiosity to go and look at go and explore some of the things we've talked about.
Well, when things are up and running, you give us, let us know what's going on, because you're very inspiring. And just to me, to the bunch of listeners who haven't heard this yet, it's going to be awesome. Very good.
Thank you. Beautiful.
So as we've discussed, if you're looking for these types of videos, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. We appreciate you coming on this journey with us, allowing us to be part of this journey as you're going through. If you have, like I said, if you have something that's tingling, something that's surfing this thing up for you, you're like, I just don't know. Be in the moment, be present, sit with it, and see what's there and start extracting it, because it's most likely something that you need to explore, but we're never present. A lot of us are so busy. So present and extract and see what that is. Other than that, we appreciate you. Enjoy the night. We'll see you on the next episode.